Hi, everyone. Welcome to Between Two Speakers, where we speak with speakers and each other about speaking and communication related topics. I'm Mariana Swallow. I'm a professional public speaking coach and workshop leader, and I also teach business communications and professional speaking at Loyola University in Chicago. You can find me at marianaswallow.com.
And I'm Randy Ford. I'm a writer and storytelling strategist. You can find me at firststorystrategies.com. One of the things that we're talking about today is it's especially big right now in the virtual meeting realm, but it's also an important topic in person, and that is presentations, visual presentations, whether it be PowerPoint, Google Slides, or any of the other. And I want to start, Mary, with your expertise, giving us a little bit of a background on the importance of visual learning and why it is so important to have that as a component of a presentation.
That's a great question, Randy. Thanks for that. So, there are three types of learning: auditory learning, where you can digest information just by listening to it; visual learning, where you learn by taking in visual information, looking at different things; and tactile learning, where you learn by doing something or writing or touching something. And most of the population are visual learners. Everyone is not just one or the other, but visual is where most people fall, and they have a higher percentage of that. So it's important that when you're speaking, presenting, leading a class, any of these things, that it's not just one person talking, that there is some visual component to it, even if it's just something simple to look at, because that will give your learners something to look at, but also connect with, and it will make the learning or the message stick more.
And one of the things that you and I often talk about and recommend to people is using this as a visual aid and not as a transcript of your presentation. You're not just putting a speech into slides. That it really needs to be a visual. If you think about the news, if you think about, you're watching Lester Holt, and there's a graphic there, it might say that something that tells you what the story is, but it doesn't have the whole story there. That's where he's actually reading it to you, and so the two go together.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so with that comes really a lot of challenges that I see people have where they will use it as a crutch. They may just go to reading everything that is on the screen. And one of the things I like to tell people is your presentation, PowerPoint, I'm just going to use that as kind of the generic term.
Mhm.
Your PowerPoint should not make sense out of context. If someone sees it later and wasn't at the actual presentation,
Mhm.
then they may be able to piece together, oh, this is what it was about, but they're not going to have the same takeaways, hopefully, that the people who were present there in the moment to get the full experience
Mhm.
got. Now, there is an important, there are important uses for that kind of a deck that's really, an informational thing that maybe you're not presenting
Mhm.
out loud. But otherwise, it really is something that should support the in the moment experience that you want your audience to have.
Absolutely. And what I always say for this, my shorthand for this is your PowerPoint is there to support the presentation, not be the presentation. And this kind of ties into the first question you asked me, that it's something for the audience to look at, maybe to inform more of what you're speaking about, but not to be the thing that they turn and look at, because I'm sure you've had this experience, as most of my clients and friends have had. If you go to a presentation and the speaker has all of the text on the slides and they just stand there and read the slides, what are you thinking when you're in that situation, when you're the audience member, Randy? What do you think when
That's
you see that?
that is when I am thinking this could have been an email. Um,
Exactly. Why am I
yeah.
here? And when you think about it, the speaker or the presenter is really the product, not the slides. They're there, like you said, just to support.
Yeah. And then that gets to another big thing that I think is an opportunity for people to provide better presentations
Hmm.
is to limit the amount of information and make it clearer. And, if you think about if we're in a traditional speaker setting,
Hmm.
you might have a big screen, you might have a small screen. You don't know how far people are from it. You don't know what the lighting is going to be like so that anything on it is necessarily able to be read clearly.
Right.
And then now that so many presentations are on a small screen, we know that there are limitations on what people can see. So what do you tell people about how to keep it as simple as possible?
Yeah, again, another great question. The rule of thumb I followed even before Zoom, but I think it pertains to Zoom days now or doing anything virtually online. When you're creating a slide deck, minimum 24-point font. That's the lowest you should go. I know that these days with everyone being on Zoom, there's this misconception that, oh, well, it's a smaller screen. So if I use a Microsoft Word document or 12-point font, everyone will see it. But that's actually not the case. You need to follow the same visual rules and best practices that you would if you were presenting in a large conference room with a screen. So no smaller than 24-point font. And visuals, I like to, I hate this term because it's kind of um, almost sounds demeaning, but like I kind of like to follow like the preschool rule, big, easy to look at images. Think about how picture books are made for toddlers. The images are big, maybe only one image per page, or if there are a couple, they're big and blocky. Same thing, because your audience wants to have ease with your visuals, not have to sit there and read, what, like you said, what could have been an email. So larger font, easy, simple, straightforward graphics.
I love that example of the kids' books
Mhm.
because that is when we learn that we are all three of the or where we fall on the spectrum of what kind of learner we are. And so those are geared toward showing visual learning, and
Mhm.
those are our most formative times. So it's a great example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think most people do fall into visual learning. I know this has been scientifically studied, but the way I always tell people when they say, well, how do I know if I'm a visual learner? If you go to a concert and you need to see the singer or whoever's playing the guitar right now, if you find yourself like you cannot stand not seeing the band, even though you can hear them, you're a visual learner.
Interesting. That's a
Yeah.
great tip. It's a good way to know. All right, this was good. I hope that we have been able to provide some of our thoughts on what make a good PowerPoint presentation. And wherever you're reading this, if you can put in any thoughts that you have about things that you see that people do well.
Yeah.
And
Tell us
thanks
what you've
for
seen
being
done well.
yeah, and thanks for being here for Between Two Speakers. I'm Randy Ford.
I'm Mariana Swallow. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.